Hello, everybody. My name is Krista Fee, and I am with Battle to Be and Rise Up Phoenix Academy. And today's Sparks is an interesting one because I prepped today by doing a Facebook question. That's my partner in the background, little Miss Brandy. She has been sunning herself outside. So what I did today was I put a question up on Facebook, and that question read the quotation, "Failure is not an option." And then I asked the question after that, how do you feel when you hear this statement? And I worded it this way on purpose. So, what I was looking for, what I was pushing to achieve, was I actually wanted people to tell me how that statement makes them feel. And there's a very specific reason for that. But what I got, not surprisingly, because my audience is primarily made up of uh, leaders, first responders, military professionals, medical professionals. So my audience is people who teach other people how to overcome the challenges in their life, right? So some of the answers that I got, the statement's misguided. I've had plenty of failures in my life. It's a harsh way of talking to yourself. I see failure as an opportunity to learn. And then hundreds of comments. Failure is necessary. Failure brings growth. Failure brings achievement. So this is what I expected. But what I'm looking for is something completely different, because I'm going to share a little personal story with you guys. That particular phrase, failure is not an option, for most people is motivational. For most people, it is a kick in the butt. It's something you say when you're trying to work out and you just want to push a little harder. It's a really common mindset for the warrior mentality. It's a very masculine, aggressive statement of don't give up, right? But for me, with the background that I have and with the symptoms that I have had, for me, a statement like failure is not an option brings out a totally different set of feelings. Failure is not an option for me is a trigger, not anymore, but it used to be a trigger for fear, because failure is not an option for some people, for people who have had adverse childhood experiences and who are living a life of hyperachievement and who are putting a tremendous amount of pressure on themselves to be worth loving, to be worth accepting, to be worth having people around. What that means is that we have to achieve, and failure for us has extraordinary consequences, like the people that we love will leave us, we will be abandoned, will be deserted, or even worse, will be punished. A statement like failure is not an option, though on the surface it seems mundane, it seems not dangerous, like something that you can say to people. And I've seen it on a bajillion t-shirts, especially t-shirts focused on mental health and post-traumatic stress. Now, from a trauma-informed standpoint, this statement is a nightmare. This statement is not trauma-informed. This statement can trigger negative emotions and negative associations. But the rest of the world out there that doesn't understand what happens in the mind and belief system of someone who has gone through adverse experiences, they don't see how this can be perceived completely different, because everything that we experience from our worldview, from our mindset, from our framework. So I wanted to bring attention to this particular statement and many others like it, because this is a dread statement. This is a painful statement. This is a statement that brings up fear and feelings of shame and worthlessness and not good enough. never good enough, lack of acceptance, and those kind of things for many others out there who struggle with the same things that I struggled with. So, what I was looking for when I said failure is not an option, how do you feel when you hear this statement? I really wanted to see, do people feel inspired or motivated? And I got one response was inspired. The others were all coaching statements. They were all boxed things, boxed phrases you would find on a t-shirt. Failure is not an option. Failure leads to success. Failure leads to growth. Failure is how we learn. Failure is inevitable. Failure is all of these things, but nobody reacted to the word feel. Nobody connected with the idea that this statement could be much more meaningful than a t-shirt slogan. So this is why it's so important in the work that I do to be very conscientious of the words that we use, the statements that we make, and the way that those statements resonate in our bodies on a deeper level. And emotional awareness is literally the first thing that we look for in trauma work. Getting connected to our own emotions, naming those emotions, understanding those emotions, learning how to allow those emotions to come and tell us the message that they have for us, but also recognizing where those emotions are coming from when those places where they're coming from are perhaps no longer accurate or were old coping strategies that we used that we no longer need, because we can change them if we're aware of them. So this particular statement, this exploratory activity, was meant to show us a couple things. The first of which is that most of you out there are not connected to your feeling selves naturally, easily, and on a regular basis. Because when I said, how do you feel when you hear this statement? You didn't tell me how you feel. You told me what your mind has been told to say about failure, but you didn't tell me how you feel about it. Not a single person responded with a story. I take that back. One person responded with a story, but the story is a little different than what we were going for, because the story is a battle of life and death. The story is resonating with the idea that failure is not an option, because failure for this individual literally means the end of this person's life. And to accept that is something this person is not willing to do yet. So for this person, failure is not an option feels literal. For this person, it's actually a life or death battle, which is so true for this person, and it's a beautiful connection that was made and a beautiful story that was told. But for most of you out there, that is not where you are at. That's not what this conversation is about. So nobody brought to me a story of how a failure made them feel, or an example of a failure and what was the resulting feeling that came from that. There were platitudes upon platitudes upon platitudes and t-shirt slogans, which again, I also have an audience of a lot of coaches, so they went right into coaching mode, and many of them thought I was saying failure is not an option and like putting it out there as coaching ease, and they didn't bother to read the context or the entirety of the post where the rest of it said, how do you feel when you hear the statement? So it was very interesting to observe how quickly people go into, I'm going to tell you that you're wrong mode. How many people go right into judgment mode? How many people go into, oh, I have an opportunity to promote myself mode, because this person is saying something that I can disagree with and I can make myself look really special and really smart. But they didn't actually read with curiosity. They didn't actually read for understanding. They didn't follow the question. They missed entirely the feel aspect of the question. And it was meant to demonstrate how we're not living our moments, we're not living our day in this feeling zone. aware of our feelings in each moment, aware of what messages are being sent to us in this moment, because feelings are extraordinary messengers and they come and go constantly throughout our day. And many of us have taught ourselves to ignore them, to push them down, to repress them, to judge them as negative, and to disassociate ourselves from them. We don't want anything to do with them. Emotions are for the weak. Emotions are uncomfortable. They're ugly. I don't want to have anything to do with that. So it's really important to notice. And that's what this is about, noticing without judgment. It's really important to notice what parts of ourselves we have learned to ignore, to push down, to shut down, to judge as positive or negative. And as we become aware of that, we receive opportunities to completely transform the life that we're living. We receive an entirely new awareness of ourselves, others, and the world around us that opens doors to experiences that we could otherwise not access. So this was a really important experiment, shall we say, a really important social experiment to demonstrate a point that literally of in an hour's time and 50 responses, one person connected with it from a feeling perspective, and that person was struggling, was having a life or death struggle in this moment with this conversation. Another person responded with inspired, which is what socially one would expect to see. And the rest came back with t-shirt slogans and what their mind, their logical mind, has been taught to think about failure. Not what failure is not an option leads to feeling in their emotions, in their bodies, beyond their thinking selves. So, I mean, at a minimum, we have a 96% completely non-responsive from their feeling self at all. So, I mean, obviously not accurate social science by any means, but an interesting awareness that our responses are prone to be outside of our emotional selves, and an invitation to allow and to look at with curiosity what might come up for you in your emotional self when I say the statement, failure is not an option. Does that feel comfortable? Does it feel safe? Does it feel motivating? Do you feel joy thinking about that comment? Do you feel success? Do you feel celebration? Do you feel nervous? Do you feel angry? What feeling sensation comes up for you? And for some of you, it'll be a really clear feeling. For some of you, it will be a sensation in your body, maybe a slight tension in your stomach. Could be even a sense of closing in your throat, like there's something you want to say, but you just can't get it out. No limitation to how this can present for you as you open and allow an experiential element to come for you. You might notice movement, patterns, shapes, colors, images, anything goes here. But I want you to step outside. I invite you to step outside of t-shirt slogans and what your thinking mind thinks about the statement, failure is not an option. Explore that a little bit, take some notes, see what comes up for you. I invite you to see yourself, others, and the world around you in a little bit different way. And to look a little further below the surface when you see t-shirt slogans and see what comes up for you. Again, my name is Krista Fee. I know we went over 7 minutes today. This is a really important conversation and a really important access point to a lot of amazing, really deep healing work that can be done. So I wanted to provide this opportunity for you. to see how simple it is to get below the surface and to see what kind of ways working with me is very different than what you see every day, than what you experience every day. In this Facebook world of a million coaches who um, are selling you promises and who are selling you t-shirts. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day. Please reach out to me, connect with me, message me. I'm always here to help. I'm always here to have a conversation. I love you all deeply. We need to express an open love for each other more frequently. A very dear friend of mine was talking about this the other day, and he is absolutely correct. So for you, Sean, we all need to be a little more open with our love, a little more free with our kindness and our generosity. And everything you do matters. Let's create those waves, those ripples, that tide of change that we're seeking. So again, Krista Fee, out for the day.